On Telephone Exchange Road, we have 3 confirmed cases, 2 suspected cases that are active or are toning down right now, and probably 2 cases that we suspect were dengue that came a little bit earlier before people were testing for it. We heard that there was cases on the farms on both sides of me, so that got me worried. I figured it's on both sides. That's too close for comfort. I would suspect it was probably about a month and a half ago, because the very first people who got it were just looking at it like, oh, I'm feeling sick, you know, it's a bad flu, let me get over it. Oh, all of a sudden I've got a rash. And it wasn't until the second set of people got it and saying, hey, this is a little bit different. And we're lucky that we have a doctor that lives on our hillside, and he was able to say, let's get some testing. So the first time that I got confirmed dengue was just 2 days ago. So I'd already started taking precautions just in case, but I was waiting until there was a confirmed case before I went to the next set of action. So the next set of action was intense weeding, covering up a little bit more with clothes, and keeping mosquito repellents on us at all times. The number one thing we're doing is Cloroxing our water tanks. And we're using about 2 ounces of 6% or more plain old regular Clorox, not with any whiteners or fragrance and stuff in it, and putting that in our water tank. So this water tank here is about 3,500, 4,000 gallons. So I put in about 1 cup, about 8 ounces. Putting Clorox in your water tank is actually pretty easy. I just get Clorox from Costco and I put it in a measuring cup. It sinks, so I stir it in when I do it, but overall it seems like it spreads pretty well. I just put it in and stir it around with the cup. I think that's one of the easiest ways to get rid of largest groups of mosquitoes. Then the next thing we did was pull weeds away from any area that was kind of damp, that might not have standing water. We got rid of standing water, but then we got rid of places that were also shady. We were really lucky because the weather's been with us, and when we pulled it away, it dried out right away. Then we went to things like tea plants and any plant that could hold any water and just cut them back. We figured they'll grow back, we don't need them right now. So we kind of, cleaned out tried to create airflow underneath the house, underneath our water tank. And our greenhouse where we worked, we pulled down weeds, cut back branches on trees, and are creating airflow. Then on top of that, once that was done, we're organic farm, so we're spraying with Pyganic, which is organic, and soap. And are going to maintain by spraying the Pyganic soap mixture around the houses probably every 3 or 4 days, or if we notice any mosquitoes, and then keep on spreading out and getting any area that we see them in. I don't suspect too many mosquitoes on my farm actually have dengue, but what I want to make sure is that someone who does have it, who's not aware of it, comes on the farm, that there won't be so many mosquitoes for them to get bitten with and start carrying it. So we're trying to break the mosquito part of the cycle. Yeah, the water from the county only goes up like the first 2 or 3 houses on the hillside, so this whole area is all catchment water. And it's even catchment water, in 10 miles in either direction. So there's a lot of standing water out here, and those will be the big main places that there could be a lot of mosquitoes. Most people keep their tanks covered, most of us keep them in pretty good shape, but with this much rain, on one of my water tanks, for instance, the water is above the cover on it because it was right up on the surface. So that area then isn't protected. So of course there's going to be mosquitoes laying eggs in there, and if there's no chlorine in there, they'll probably survive. So so taking care of your catchments is a gigantic first step, and then taking care of leaky faucets, shower stalls, any place that there's water outside that's steady is the other place to go ahead and start with. And most people know where the mosquito part of the yard is. So you just go in there, and we weed burn first if we need to, so the smoke kind of clears them out. And then we'll hand weed, and then we'll come back in with a sprayer. So if there's too many mosquitoes, hit it with the sprayer first, then go back and weed. I'm glad that right now that they're spraying at the neighbor's place, but it's taken about 2 weeks to get there. They have to wait until they get confirmation, just like I did, before you want to start acting. What I'm dissatisfied with is there's no central location for information, and the information we're getting is not necessarily that accurate. So what we'd like to see is one person who is in charge for the whole state of dengue, that if you have it or you suspect you have it, you can call them. If you have a social network or your cluster, we can identify who's in each cluster, and not be told when you call the main office to go ahead and talk to your provider, call the infectious disease number, and they say talk to your provider. The provider then has to do the workup and get the test, which takes up to a week to get confirmation. And I think that there's not one person in charge. The infectious number is run by the officer of the day, so that changes every day. So I think they need coordination on that level to have one place where they can map out the social networks, and we can also put that information, maybe not the names of the people, but the locations of the people out on the map. For example, we've heard there's some people maybe came from here and went back up to Hawaii. Well, each person who has it or even thinks they have like a small flu, even if it's not dengue, should just keep themselves from mosquitoes. Because if they don't get bit by mosquitoes, that's the end of the disease right there. And then everyone else who's unsure should take care of the mosquitoes on their property. And I think that information is not being well spread. So the second thing is too, that there's 4 serotypes of dengue, 4 different strains basically. And if you get one strain, then you won't get that strain again. But if you get a second strain after you've had the first strain, it can be much worse than the first time. So knowing how many strains are out here and which strains they are is important. So far, it's all dengue 1 is the only one that's been found, which is actually good news. And if we can stop it at that, and only a handful of people get it, then if another dengue comes by, and if whatever time it takes, a year or a couple of years, and we know it's dengue 1, then we'll know, one level of precaution. If it's a dengue 2 or 3, well, we've got to be more careful. So I think that type of information is not being put out. And there's lots of rumors from people and all kinds of different takes on it. And I think that's confusing it. I think the newspapers made it more confusing. Some people think that you have to have like a high fever and all the symptoms before you have it. And that's turning out not to be true. And so I think people with like low symptoms or maybe have it, maybe don't, aren't going to report it. They'll be carriers, and then the next person might keep on spreading it. We've had over 20 inches of rain in like 2 weeks, and we've actually had, almost kayakable streams going through a place that are normally dry. So the mosquito population is really high, and that's a major contributing factor. Right now, it's just starting to dry out. It's getting cooler. We've had two pretty dry days since we started doing our work on our weeds, and that means little pockets of places that mosquitoes might breed have dried out already. So the weather's in our favor, but I think that the abundance of mosquitoes in the first place probably could have contributed to dengue spreading a little bit faster than it might have otherwise. The way to stop this is for the people who have any sign at all, any fever at all, to make sure they do not get bit by mosquitoes, and for everyone to stop all standing water and to stop the mosquito vector, because it has to live on both sides. It has to live in a human and it has to live in a mosquito in order for it to spread. And then the next thing is, I think that if the state's not going to take care of knowing about the social networks, then it's up to us as individuals to talk to each other, find out where someone thinks they got it from, make sure that that person and the places they've been get extra mosquito control, make sure that people they've been in contact with, if they get even a slight fever or slight body aches, that they go ahead and make sure they don't get bit by mosquitoes and possibly get it tested.